Okay, today we are doing measures of variation. Yesterday we did measures of central tendency. You don't need to write this down. But what did that mean, measures of central tendency? Mean, median, and mode. Good. Okay, so this is different. This is measures of variation, and that is the range, the variance, and the standard deviation. So those are the three things we'll be doing today. Okay? All right. Measures of variance represent how spread out a set of data is. Range, we did this a lot in Math 1. How do you get the range? Good. Max minus min. It is the largest minus the smallest. The range is the max minus min. Okay? All right. Variance describes how far the data deviates from the mean. So deviates kind of means differs. So how far does each data point differ from the mean? What is the mean? The average. Okay, so if everybody in the class makes a B or a C on their test, then it would have a small variance. But if we have people who make 100s and people who make 20s, then that would be a large variance. Okay? All right, standard deviation is kind of the same thing. What you need to know is this symbol for standard deviation. That's what it'll be in the calculator. And we square it to get the variance. And we'll do an example in just a minute. If you were going to do it by hand, these would be the formulas. But luckily, we're not doing it by hand. We're going to be using the calculator. Okay? All right. So, example number 1. Use the following list of numbers to find the range, standard deviation, and variance. So we're going to go ahead and put them in stat in our calculator. I need everybody to do this. Everybody should have their calculator out on their desk. 6.9, 8.7, 7.6, 4.8, and 9. All right, so put those in stat. Then you're going to press stat again. Then what do? Calc. And the first one is what we're doing. First one, stats. Enter, enter, enter. If you scroll down, the calculator gives you the max and the min. Of course, you don't need the calculator to do that for you. That's something that you could easily do by hand. But the calculator does give you the max and min. So the range is the max minus the min. So I would write that down, at least on this first example. So the range is max minus min. So we got the max to be what? What's the max? 9 minus 4.8, and that gives you 4.2. Okay, so that's the range. Okay, max minus min. Okay, the standard deviation, we are going to be using this symbol right here. Right here, we're going to be using this symbol. I think it's the ohm, maybe, is the Greek letter. I'm not sure. But it's the O with the little thing coming off of it. So we're going to be using this for our standard deviation. So 1.5. All right, so 1.5. And again, I would write that little symbol on your notes to help you, okay? And to get the variance, it's going to be this number squared. So in my calculator, I'm just going to type, I'm going to start typing 1.5 squared. All right, and just go ahead and write that whole number. It's not long. That way you don't even have to worry about whether or not Miss Williams will count it right or wrong. Just write the whole number, 2.25. Okay. What was I going to ask? I can't remember. I lost it. Okay. Any questions about where those three numbers came from? Okay. This next question, within how many standard deviations from the mean does all the numbers fall? So here's what I mean by that. You got to find the mean first. So how can I get those numbers back on my calculator? Go back to stat, calc, enter, enter, enter. So get those numbers back on your screen. And what do you have for the mean? Okay, I'll give you some more. Yep, 7.4. So let's write that down. Okay, so that is the mean. So I'm going to do my work right here underneath. And I have to go one standard, within how many standard deviations from the mean? So let's go one standard deviation. Here's what I mean by that. You're going to take 1.5 and add it in this direction. What do you think you might do in this direction? Subtract it. So take your mean, 7.4, and we're going to add one standard deviation, which is 1.5. So what is 7.4 plus 1.5? What is it? 9. And subtract 1.5. What is it? 5.9. Okay. We're trying to get all the numbers to fall in here. Do all the numbers fit between 5.9 and 8.9? No, 4.8 and 9 are outside. So we need to go another standard deviation. So you add 1.5 again, and you subtract 1.5 in each direction. Okay, what do you get when you add 1.5? And what about this way? Okay. Do all of these original numbers fall between 4.4 and 10.4? Yes. So how many standard deviations did I have to go out? 2. You just do 2. You just do like one direction. So it took 2 standard deviations. So your answer is 2 for that question. All right. All right, any questions on that one? Okay. Below are the weights of different offensive linemen at football teams from 3 different high schools. You've got Jackson, Washington, and King. What do you think SD stands for? Standard deviation. So I got to do Jackson, Washington, and King. Can I do it all at the same time in my calculator? No, you got to do one at a time. So go ahead and do that. Start with Jackson. Type them in. Type in Jackson. So the standard deviation is this symbol. What do you have for Jackson? Okay, what about for Washington? 0.1? Okay. And King? 19 point? Okay. All right, this next question. How would the school with the most variation, let's stop right there and think about what that means. The school with the most variation, which one is that? Jackson, Washington, or King? Washington. So variation is going to be the highest standard deviation. It's also going to be the school that has the most spread out. If you look at these numbers, Washington has the biggest spread between its players. Okay? So it's talking about Washington. All right, and then this is just like a critical thinking question. How would the most variation, how would that impact their play in a football game? If they've got, this is offensive linemen. All right, those are the weights of them. What do you think? Sounds good to me. So it could weaken their play. All right. Two more. The table below shows the population of millions of different states from the 2000 census. First thing we gotta do is find the range, standard deviation, and variance. So take a minute and put that in your calculator. All right, Samantha, how do you get the range? What's the formula? Good. And Olivia, what did you get for your final answer for that one? The range. Good. Okay. Kirsten, what you have for the standard deviation? Yep, 5.6. And Chase, how do you get the variance? What do you have to do? Good. You have to square the standard deviation. Anybody? Good. 31.4. Okay. This next question, how many states fell within 2 standard deviations from the mean? So the first thing you need to do is write down the mean. Caitlin, what you have for the mean? 5.4. And we'll first go one standard deviation. We'll do one standard deviation at a time. Gracie, what is the standard deviation? 5.6. So you have to add 5.6 and you have to subtract 5.6. So you start with the mean and you add the standard deviation and you subtract the standard deviation. Anybody got those two numbers? Okay. All right. This question is saying how many states fell within 2 standard deviations. Okay. So we've got to go some more. Paige, how do we go another standard deviation? What do you have to do? Add 5.6 and subtract 5.6 again. If you noticed, are any of these numbers negative? So you really don't need to go any further. You can. Negative 6.8. And then what do you get here when you add 5.6? 16.6. Okay. Okay. So how many states are between negative 6.8 and 16.6? So is New York between those two numbers? No. What about Pennsylvania? Yes, 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 and yes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 states are between 2 standard deviations. Okay. Yes, thank you. Okay. All right. This one, C, what percent? Now this is going to change your answer a little bit. What percent of the states fell within 1 standard deviation? So 1 standard deviation was 11 and negative 0.2. So first of all, let's just count. How many are between negative 0.2 and 11? These two don't count. Do the rest of them? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. To get a percent, you have to divide by the total. How many total states are there? 11. So you have to divide by the total to get a percent. Okay, 9 divided by 11? 81 point. Thank you. 81.8%. So that's the thing you have to pay attention to. Does it just ask how many or does it ask what percent? Okay? All right, last one. The table shows the class scores on a test. For this one, the table's set up a little differently. Oh, sorry. Stat, edit, clear this out. Okay, what does it mean right here of a score of 90, frequency 3? Anybody? There are 3 90s. So in your calculator, you have to type 90, 90, and 90 is what that means. 3 90s. Okay? 3 90s. How many 85s? Yep. So keep going. All right, Trayvon, what's the formula for range? Good. Keith, do you have it yet? Max minus min? 25. Good. Kayla, what you got for the standard deviation? Very good. And Charlie, how do you get the variance? You got to square it. So that's 59.8. Okay. All right, this next one, what percent of the scores fell within 1 standard deviation of the mean? Tanner, what do I need to write down first to do the work for this one? The mean, which is what? Okay, so you start with the mean, and we're going to go 1 standard deviation at a time and then see what the question's asking. Keelan, how do I go 1 standard deviation? What do I do? Good. That's your standard deviation, 7.7. So you add 7.7 and you subtract 7.7. Right? All right, what do you have for your 2 numbers? Anybody? Okay. All right, so this one's just saying what percent fell within 1 standard deviation. So let's stop there for a minute and answer that question. Jose, which one of these scores are between 67.7 and 83.1? Good, from those things. So how many scores is that? 3 plus 7 is 10, plus 6 more is 16. And this one is asking for the percent. So you have to divide by the total. Okay? How many total scores are there? 25. Okay? All right, C, what percent of the scores fell within 2 standard deviations of the mean? Jonah, how do I go 2 standard deviations? What do I have to do? And subtract 7.7. Okay? Anybody, those numbers? 90.8 and 60. Okay. All right. So now we're looking at from 60 to 90.8. Anthony, which one of these scores fall between 60 and 90.8? All of them. So make it really easy on yourself. What percent is all? 100%. Okay.